Hey YouTube, in this video we're going to be addressing how far away you are from a 10-second time. Not so much a high 10-second time, but a low 10-second time. This is only really applicable to people who haven't gone sub 11, purely because, well, I mean, you're going to see in a second, but purely because the frequency and range of motion, someone who isn't sub 11 is very different to the range of motion and the frequency someone who is below sub 11 is. This is essentially just a really simple test. All you have to do is essentially simulate a 10-second sprint. So you don't use your legs, it's purely just your arms, and all you do here is you stand up and you just relax your whole body, and then you imagine mark, set, and you do the bang, and you just move your arms like how you would during a normal race. But the difference is you want to get full range of motion on everything you do, and you want to make the range of motion as big as possible. For example, say this is your start, yeah? You hear the bang or whatever you simulate, and you're relaxing, then you just go up, yeah? And your arm's gone back. If this is your range of motion, yeah? Your hand in front is near your nose, your back arm is maybe this low where you can't even see it, or is here. This is not enough. You want to really be exaggerating the range of motion, purely because the more exaggerated the range of motion is, the more power would be produced with your legs during these steps. If you have your arms here, this is as much. If you have your arms here, this is a lot more. This shoulder and this shoulder and this shoulder cannot allow my arms to go up any higher than they have. And then the second they've gone up, you want to just quickly switch. You want to go up and then switch as high as possible each time and switch. And then from there, that's the easy part. The real hard part comes once you start getting to almost being upright, because once your arms are making swastika signs with your entire body, you want to make sure that your hands still have full range of motion. You don't want your front hand to only be at your nose or even below your face. Like you won't put your arm up this high generally. Your hand will usually be around your chin. Maybe you won't do it when you actually simulate this, but you want to make sure you do, because generally in most of your races, what will happen is you'll notice, if you look at your arms, you're thinking you're using full range of motion in your arms, but you're not. Your arms are going no higher than your chin, and sometimes your arms are about here. When you look at people who are running sub 10 or close to sub 10, you'll notice that their hands are here. So essentially every single time they swing their arms, they can see the hand that's in front every single time. They might not be focusing on it, but if they wanted to, they could. For example, go look at Asaf Powell, Usain Bolt, Justin Gatlin, Christian Coleman, Johan Blake, any of them. You'll notice that at times, when it's the side camera angle, they'd be able to cover the entirety of their face. You won't be able to see it. A good example would be Asaf Powell. I think it was when he ran 9.72. If you actually look at that race, because he was away from the pack from the very beginning, essentially. So it's really easy to see. Before he even got upright, you'll notice that there will be a couple of times where his arm swings up and you just can't see his face. It's completely covered by his hands. The reason why I said Asaf Powell is because he was away from the pack and he had his hands completely open like this. So it's much easier to understand how we cover his face. Because if I'm going to turn my face like this, like that, obviously I can't see the camera, but I'm pretty sure I'll be correct in assuming you cannot see my face. There are parts of my face you can see, but generally my face is covered. And it was the exact same like that. His hands were never here. They were always here before he even got upright. So when you do this drill, it's not even a drill, it's more of a test. You want to make sure that your arms come up to your face as soon as, but not even as soon as possible. The second you start to move, you want your hands to get up to your face or even above it. Though when you're upright, though, obviously you just want your hands to get to your face. But when you're trying to get out of the blocks, essentially, you want your hands to go above your face for the first couple of steps. And generally they just stick around here each time. And the way to ensure this is, you want to make sure that your arms shoot back and you relax. And so just switch into the other arm. Because what's going to happen if you just switch to the other arm and you let this arm come forwards, it's going to stop here. And this is like one of the worst positions you can be in, because this is going to limit your range of motion in your legs. This is not here. It's not even here. It's not even in the screen really. Like a few of my fingers aren't visible. And this is very far away from this. To make sure you actually get to here, you want to squeeze, I think it's your triceps or it's your biceps. It's one of the two. Okay, it's your biceps. Just needed to confirm. You want to squeeze your biceps to pull your arm up as well. Once you let go, relax. Then as it gets close, squeeze your biceps up, and then your hands will naturally come to your face as long as you squeeze as hard as possible. You want to squeeze and relax, squeeze and relax. Same thing with your legs. Squeeze and relax, squeeze and relax. And then you want to make sure you keep your arms up here. And this is where the real hard part comes in. Because the full range of motion, generally that's quite easy. It's maintaining the full range of motion and doing it as long as possible. Because you have to remember, you want to do this for 10 seconds. Or maybe even slightly longer if you really want to push to 11 seconds. Just to make sure. So you want to do the full test, set a timer as well, 10 or 11 seconds. This one's really up to you. I'd say 11 seconds, and you can just stop shortly before it gets to 11 seconds, purely because 10 seconds would mean you just ran 10 flat, and chances are you didn't actually exert enough effort with your arms to be running 10 flat. The frequency and the length of your arms wasn't there. So 11 seconds or just before 11 seconds is much better. If you can get into the decimals with your timer, that's even better, because then you can just stop at like 10.5 and be like, sure. Because if you stop at 10 seconds, what's really going to end up happening is your arms, they worked maximally, but they had essentially a bit more time to not be working at their full effort. And it's really easy to exert yourself in 100 meters, even if it's just your arms and it's assimilated, because the more full range of motion you have and the faster you do it, the more exertion you're going to be experiencing. And this test really is just to see whether your body is actually capable of sustaining this type of speed for 10 seconds. Because the way to tell isn't whilst you're doing it. You might notice near the end that, yeah, this is getting a bit hard. But it's not so much whilst you're doing it that you realize, it's once you've finished. Because what you're going to notice is, especially if you've recently had a race, is how tiring did that feel? All you did was swing your arms backwards and forwards for 10 seconds or 11 seconds. How tired did you feel? Did this feel more tiring than the 100-meter race you might have had last month, for example? If the answer is yes, then clearly we have a problem, which means you're nowhere near running 10 seconds, purely because if your arms can't keep up, and it's much easier to move your arms back and forwards through air, by the way, then your legs stand no chance, because your legs, they have to not just move through air, they also need to produce enough force into the ground and then recover in the same time your arms are moving. So if they're incapable of that, that will just show you that there's something lacking that you need to work on. And another reason why I quite like this test is because you can kind of take this as training to see how close you are, see how fatiguing you are. And it's also a great way to ensure that when you actually go through your training sessions, you remember to keep your hands upright, because whether you realize it or not, this test is technically just a drill. It's just a drill that teaches you to keep your hands up to your face. So essentially you're covering your face with every single arm stroke you do. You want to make sure your hands are covering your face and your arms shoot back as much as possible. You want to focus specifically on the shoulder and getting the short stretch shortening cycle. I don't keep messing this up. Stretch shortening cycle from your shoulders, because you'll feel a lock and you relax and you go up again and you feel a lock in your arms again. Though when you're coming up, the lock won't be as much, because if I was to do it with my front arm from here, I can go all the way back here like most people could, or even more. And so it's not really as much in the front, which is why it's much easier to mess up the front. But when you understand what the front side mechanics of your arms are, which is the front side mechanics of your legs, it's extremely important that we don't mess this up, because the positioning of your arms will determine the positioning of your legs. If your arm doesn't get up high, your leg naturally will not get up as high as your arm. Will just stay roughly within the same range of motion as your arm did, which means you're probably leaving a lot of speed on the table that you could have been using in your races. And I'm not saying that you're going to be able to increase your stride frequency by doing this, though I am saying your stride length does stand a chance to go up. And if you actually use your arms properly, this is a great way to get into another gear essentially, because your legs are great. They're the ones that are actually moving you forwards, but your arms control your legs. If you're able to get your body more used to moving your arms in a faster, fuller range of motion, and then you're able to also let that occur with your legs as well, it can only really make sense that when you actually do go into a race, you're going to be able to perform better. Your training sessions also, before you even get to the race, will start to get faster and faster and faster. A lot of people tend to neglect the arms whilst they're one of the most important parts of the race. The reason why they're neglected is mainly because when you're sprinting, you think of the legs because that's what's doing all the work. But the arms are doing a lot of work as well. We have to remember that the arms dictate the legs, and the arms can also help resist gravity to go up. If you actually do this test, what you'll notice is at the start, generally, you're just trying to get the full range of motion, but then you're going to start to get distracted by the fact that you're starting to go maybe left, maybe right, or you're just struggling to stay upright because your arms are generating so much force, it's really hard to continue. This is usually counterbalanced by your legs, but in reality, it's usually your arms counterbalancing your legs. But the fact that your arms are able to produce this much force, but they're not producing this much force in a race, should just go to show that there's a lot more you could be doing that you're not able to do because your arms aren't producing this much force. Because your arms counterbalance the legs, not the other way around. And if you're having to use your legs to counterbalance your arms, which wouldn't be very difficult, though it would feel a bit weird, then you know that you're leaving something on the table that you could have been putting into your training sessions and, more importantly, your races to get your times down. If you like my video, like the video, let me know in the comment section below. Check the description because anything I forget to say in the video, I always put in the description. And if you like my content, subscribe. Helps the channel out a lot. I post every 2 days at 1 p.m. Greenwich Mean Time. If you don't know when that is, just hit the bell and then you'll be notified instantly.